Hi there, my name's Mark Jordan and welcome to my presentation on what factors enable tradespeople academic achievement in higher education. So the aims and objectives then, it has to be very quick this one, the aims are to raise your awareness of the factors that contribute to academic achievement for tradespeople in higher education. The first half of this presentation will look at the importance of the construction industry, and the final part of this presentation will look at what are those enablers. So we'll get straight into the background and context then. So Australia's construction industry is the nation's third largest employer, employs around 9% of the total workforce, contributes 360 billion revenue per annum, contributes around 9% GDP, and provides financial value added to other industries such as manufacturers, suppliers, etc. Has a projected annual growth rate of 2.4% over the next 5 years. So the construction industry is hugely important. What's as important, of course, is that we make sure that we have good quality managers. And what we're finding is that a lot of managers are coming into education to get their qualification in construction management, and they're actually not achieving because they can't adapt to higher education expectations. So that's a little bit about the construction industry, a little bit about me. I've been involved in the construction industry since 1980 in a variety of positions, and I've been involved in adult education since 1990, so over 30 years. So as I say, what I've found and what other colleagues have found is a lot of tradespeople coming to do a degree. They want to do really well and they can't adapt to higher education. So I think what we've ascertained here is that the construction industry is hugely important to the country. So what are the company's expectations of their managers? Well, they want their managers to have a degree in construction management or similar. They want their managers to have a really good, deep, complex understanding of the information technology, building information, modeling, robotics and other computerized technologies in buildings, because we're looking at increasingly smarter buildings these days. They need to have obviously good people skills, knowing how to diffuse the situation, knowing how to provide a clear instruction. Organisational skills, well, naturally they do, and they need to contribute and work to the construction programme, ensuring that materials are delivered on site when they should be, and that there's plenty of human resources as and when is required for a particular job. They need to have financial and economic knowledge. Time is money. The construction industry is a hugely financially driven industry, and of course the contractor doesn't want to fall outside the construction program period, because they'll be liable for liquidated and ascertained damages. And that's a kind of important one. We're finding that the companies are wanting their construction managers to be ex-tradies, like carpenters, bricklayers, concrete layers, etc. So what then is the route to the construction operative academic profile? Well, by 2024, the construction industry is predicted to employ 1.3 million people in Australia, and that 45% of those are directly from vocational and the training sector, the vet sector. The construction industry workers have Cert 3 and 4 at 45.3% compared to just 20.7% from all other industries. The construction industry workers with bachelor's degrees, however, and somewhat alarmingly, only equates to 6.2% compared to 19.4% from other industries. So I'm not saying there's anything particularly wrong with that. I'm only saying alarmingly because you wouldn't expect a carpenter to have a degree. But it is a small amount nonetheless. What are the educational challenges between vet and higher education then? Well, there's a pedagogical and a cultural differences between the two sectors. And as Bowman and Callan have already identified a few years ago, that they should not be ignored. There is a big difference between vet and higher education. One, the vet level is sort of getting people ready for work, and to have those sort of skills where they can be work ready, whereas the higher education sector tends to work on sort of knowledge base rather than performance based or competency. Attempts have been made for seamless transitions between the two sectors, but pathways have rarely been perceived as smooth or straightforward. So whilst there's been many attempts by universities to make those transitions from one sector to the other seamless, and for some people it has been seamless, but for a lot of non-traditional students like traders, they found it anything but smooth or straightforward. The challenges presented within this transitional process can be overwhelming and academically challenging. And this is what we have found with a lot of trade students. And it doesn't matter what age they're at, they could be a 60-year-old or they could be a 20-year-old, that they find that they do get overwhelmed with report writing, research, referencing, and things like that. And because of that, they very often feel unsupported. They feel that the university doesn't understand them, and so they drop out before course completion. This is a massive problem, not just for them as an individual, but for the construction industry as a whole. If we get good quality traders coming in to higher education to become a construction manager, and they feel as if they're not being supported, then they will drop out, and that's very often what they do. So what are the universities doing then to retain these non-traditional students and for those who struggle to adapt to higher education? Well, some of them are providing what's called an associate degree, which is kind of a halfway house between a diploma and a full degree. So it's a sort of a transitional qualification. Some universities offer up to a year foundational learning. Some see the issue as a student problem. And it's they've got to adapt to university life. That's all there is to it. So, but they do recognise that. They recognise that there is an issue. So what they do is they offer what we call co-curricular programs based on a deficit model approach. So they're just offering sort of generic academic support programs. Some universities, however, embed their academic learning support within the core programs, and I think this is really important. We've found that a lot of students tend not to want to go to co-curricular activities because there's a bit of stigma attached to that. There's a little bit about, oh, well, I'm a bit of a dimwit, so I've now got to go and learn how to write or learn how to do a report. Whereas if the academic and the higher education expectations are embedded within the core programs, then they're not being singled out, they're not being targeted, and it's a win-win because the lecturer also can ensure the student, right, this is how I want the report to look, this is what I'm looking for. When you do your research, make sure you do X, Y, and Z. If you're going to use a referencing model, it be APA 6 or 7 or the Harvard referencing guide, or etc. Some, rather alarmingly, some universities offer tradespeople advancement in higher education programs, and that can be a real problem. And that can be a problem because they've got lots of experience and they've got their Cert 3 or their Cert 4, and they think to themselves, yeah, we want this student, this non-traditional student, they're full of knowledge, and we're going to give them a year, maybe 18 months off their study program at HE level. So they go straight into halfway into year 2. And it's a disaster. Generally speaking, what we found is that it's not a good look because these students are the very students that are missing out on that formative knowledge in the first year, in knowing how to enculturate, how to become a higher education student. I think the problem we're having is, are we treating learners as individuals? And I don't think we always are, but you need to know that we are not the same. We're clearly not the same. There are people who are first in family, for instance, so none of their family have ever been to university. we all have different learning styles. We learn differently. That's all there is to it. A lot of mature students coming in are juggling work with their study. A lot of them have the ability to enculturate, but a lot of them have the inability to enculturate to higher education. A lot of people come in with family commitments. Age factor. Now, I've put this in, and not that I'm being ageist, but I'm just merely putting that down because a 60-year-old female coming in to do a higher education degree will have different learning needs and probably different learning styles than that of an 18-year-old straight from secondary school. So I think as a group of learners, whilst we think of a class or a group of, say, 50 learners in a lecture theatre, the only commonality really is the study program. There's actually nothing else that keeps them together. There's nothing else. It's just, that's the core commonality. So that's part one. I'll do part two in just a moment. So I look forward to seeing you again. Okay, so thank you very much, and I'll be seeing you. Bye for now.